You know what's crazy? Right now, somewhere in your life, someone might be convincing you that you're the problem and you're believing them. Not because you're weak or naive, but because they've turned blame into an art form so subtle, so sophisticated, that by the time you realize what's happening, you're already apologizing for things you didn't do. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about. The people who hurt us most aren't always the ones who admit it. They're the ones who make us feel guilty for being hurt in the first place. And if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, drained, and somehow responsible for someone else's bad behavior, you're not losing your mind or being manipulated. The good news, once you see the patterns, once you understand the psychological tricks they're using, their power evaporates like morning fog in sunlight. What you're about to learn isn't just theory, it's the exact blueprint manipulators use to make you question your reality, and more importantly, how to break free from their grip before they take anything else from you. Here's what most people get wrong about manipulation. They think it's obvious, that they'd spot it a mile away, like some cartoon villain twirling a mustache. But here's the unsettling truth. The most skilled manipulators don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with warning labels or sinister background music. Instead, they slip into your life wearing the mask of a friend, a partner, a colleague, someone who seems to genuinely care. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're already tangled in their web, questioning your own perceptions and wondering if maybe, just maybe, you're the problem after all. What makes manipulation so devastatingly effective isn't force, it's subtlety. Psychologist George Simon, who spent decades studying manipulative personalities, observed that these individuals operate by exploiting one fundamental human need, our desire to be good people. They've mastered the art of making you feel responsible for their emotions, their reactions, their entire well-being. Think about that coworker who somehow always manages to make you feel guilty for saying no, or that friend who leaves you emotionally drained after every conversation. Yet you can't pinpoint exactly what they did wrong. That's not coincidence, that's strategy. They're playing chess while you're still trying to figure out the rules of the game. The most chilling part? Manipulators don't just change your behavior, they rewire how you see yourself. Dr. Martha Stout, in her research on sociopathic behavior, found that victims of chronic manipulation often develop what she calls compassion fatigue of the self. You stop trusting your gut instincts. You second-guess your boundaries. You find yourself constantly apologizing, even when you can't remember what you did wrong. And here's where it gets really twisted. The more you try to fix things, the more entangled you become. Because to a manipulator, your empathy isn't a beautiful quality to be cherished, it's a resource to be mined, a weakness to be exploited until there's nothing left but doubt and exhaustion. There's a psychological phenomenon called projection that Sigmund Freud identified over a century ago, and it's the manipulator's most reliable weapon. Here's how it works when someone can't face their own flaws, mistakes, or darker impulses. Their brain does something fascinating. It throws those qualities onto someone else like a spotlight, redirecting attention. The manipulator who's been dishonest will accuse you of lying. The one who's emotionally distant will claim you're cold and unavailable. It's not just deflection, it's an unconscious defense mechanism that protects their fragile ego from the unbearable weight of self-awareness. And you, standing there bewildered, suddenly find yourself defending against accusations that feel bizarrely backwards. But there's something even more calculated happening beneath the surface. Manipulators instinctively understand what psychologists call the fundamental attribution error, our tendency to blame others' actions on their character while excusing our own as circumstantial. They weaponize this. When they mess up, it's because they were stressed, misunderstood, or you pushed them to it. When you make the smallest mistake, it's because you're careless, selfish, or fundamentally flawed. Dr. Harriet Breaker, who wrote extensively on emotional manipulation, noted that these individuals create what she called the blame spiral, a pattern where every conversation somehow circles back to your supposed failures. You walk into a discussion about their behavior and walk out apologizing for yours. That's not accident. That's architectural level emotional engineering. What keeps this blame shifting so effective is something deeply embedded in human psychology, Cognitive dissonance. When someone we care about insists we're the problem, our brains scramble to make sense of the contradiction between this person matters to me and this person is hurting me. The easiest resolution: accept their version of reality. After all, it's less painful to believe you're wrong than to accept you've been systematically manipulated. Think of it like this: if someone keeps telling you the room is spinning, when you feel perfectly balanced, eventually you'll start grabbing onto furniture just to be safe. That's what happens to your sense of reality under constant blame shifting. You lose your equilibrium, and suddenly their twisted version of events becomes your new normal. The first tactic is called gaslighting, and it's named after a 1944 film where a husband systematically makes his wife question her sanity. In real life, it sounds like this: that never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're being too sensitive. What makes gaslighting so insidious is that it doesn't attack your choices. It attacks your perception of reality itself. A manipulator will deny conversations you clearly remember, rewrite history with such confidence that you start doubting your own memory, and gradually convince you that your emotional responses are overreactions. Dr. Robin Stern, who literally wrote the book on gaslighting, describes it as emotional hit and run. They distort your reality, then speed away while you're left standing there, wondering what just happened. Over time, you stop trusting yourself entirely, which is exactly where they want you. The second tactic is love bombing followed by withdrawal, and it's psychological whiplash in its purest form. They shower you with affection, attention, compliments, making you feel like you've finally found someone who truly gets you. Then, without warning, the warmth vanishes. They become cold, distant, critical. Your brain, now addicted to that initial high, goes into panic mode. What did I do wrong? How do I get that feeling back? Behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered that intermittent reinforcement to unpredictable rewards creates the strongest addiction patterns. Slot machines use this principle, and so do manipulators. They've trained you to keep pulling that lever, hoping for another jackpot of approval, while they sit back and watch you exhaust yourself trying to earn something they never intended to give consistently. The third tactic is playing the victim, where they flip every script to position themselves as the wounded party. You bring up a legitimate concern, and suddenly you're the aggressor attacking a helpless soul who's been through so much. It's masterful misdirection. The fourth is triangulation, bringing third parties into conflicts to validate their perspective and isolate you. Everyone thinks you're overreacting, they'll say, weaponizing imaginary allies. And the fifth, moving the goalposts. You meet their demands, and they immediately create new ones. You apologize, and it's never enough. You change your behavior, and they find something else wrong. It's like trying to win a game where the rules change every time you're about to score. These aren't random behaviors, they're calculated moves designed to keep you off balance, always chasing an approval that stays perpetually out of reach. Manipulators are masters of what logicians call false equivalencies, and they deploy them with surgical precision. Here's how it sounds in action. You express hurt about something significant. They did, and they immediately counter with something trivial you did weeks ago. Well, you forgot to text me back that one time, so we're even. Your brain knows something's off about this math, but you can't quite articulate why, because they've just equated a paper cut with a broken bone and insisted both injuries deserve the same response. Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer identified this as the art of being right, where the goal isn't truth but victory. Manipulators don't care about logical consistency. They care about muddying the waters enough that you stop trying to navigate them altogether. And once you're confused, they've already won. Another distortion technique they love is black and white thinking, also known as splitting. In their world, there's no nuance, no middle ground, no room for human complexity. You're either completely loyal or you're a traitor. You either agree entirely or you're against them. This cognitive distortion, identified extensively in studies of personality disorders, serves a specific purpose. It eliminates the possibility of reasonable discussion. When everything becomes an extreme, you can't have a measured conversation about boundaries or concerns. Try to explain that you need space, and suddenly you're abandoning them. Question their behavior, and you're attacking them. Dr. Albert Ellis, founder of rational emotive behavior therapy, called these absolutist demands the refusal to accept that life and people exist in shades of gray rather than stark absolutes. Then there's what psychologists call circular reasoning, where the manipulator's conclusion is embedded in their premise, creating an impossible loop you can't escape. You're defensive, which proves you're guilty. They'll say, if you deny it, that's defensiveness. If you stay silent, that's admission. If you try to explain, that's making excuses. It's like being accused of witchcraft and failing the test for being a witch was drowning. So if you survived, you were guilty, and if you died, well, you were also guilty, but conveniently no longer around to prosecute. Manipulators create these logical traps where every possible response confirms their narrative. And here's what's truly brilliant from their perspective. While your brain is busy trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle, trying to find the right words that'll make them understand, they're already 3 moves ahead, enjoying the spectacle of watching you tie yourself in knots, trying to prove something that was never actually in question. So here's the real question. Now that you've seen behind the curtain, now that you understand exactly how manipulators operate, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Because understanding is only half the battle. Application is where transformation happens. Think about the relationships in your life right now. Who consistently makes you feel smaller? Who turns every conversation into your apology tour? Who's got you second-guessing reality itself? It's time to stop being the audience in their twisted performance and start writing your own script. Here's your challenge. The next time someone tries to shift blame onto you, pause. Don't react. Don't defend. Just observe the tactic they're using. Is it gaslighting? Playing victim? Moving goalposts? Call it out, even if it's just silently in your own mind. That awareness is your shield. And once you've got it, their weapons become laughably transparent. So tell me, have you recognized these patterns in your own life? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And if you're serious about protecting your peace and never falling for these games again, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're just getting started on dismantling the tactics people use to control you, your reality, your rules. Let's keep going.